from the Ticats Audio Network. This is Ticats Today with Louie B.
Yes, it is Ticats Today for a Thursday, November the 18th, 2021. Hope you're having a great week. The weekend within sight, which means the Ticats' next game, just a few short days away. Of course, that is on Saturday when they host the Saskatchewan Roughriders. 4 p.m. is kickoff. But you're going to want to make sure you're in your seat beginning at 3:30, as we'll be having a special tribute to the great Angelo Mosca. Lots going on throughout the stadium. We'll have his book on sale. We'll be selling buttons and stickers, all in support of Hamilton Alzheimer's Society. So 3:30 is when you're going to want to be in your seat for that tribute. And if you're coming down, and if you've always thought, man, I'd love to listen to the broadcast, but there's that delay and, it's streaming. Well, good news, because announced today, we've partnered with ProWire to stream real-time audio channels to fans here at Tim Hortons Field. So we will be able to give you live play-by-play as it happens, no delay, if you are plugged in your mobile device through the Ticats Audio Network and through the Ticats All Access app. We're the first Canadian football team to do this. It's their patented real-time audio streaming technology. It'll run on the team Wi-Fi and will be accessible via the Ticats All Access app. And yes, I did double check that does count for the pregame as well. So when you get to the building, open the app, and you'll be able to listen to real-time audio here at Tim Hortons Field. So pretty exciting stuff, because I know a lot of people want to listen to the game when they're here or want to hear the commentary, but they're worried about that delay. Well, thanks to ProWire's real-time audio, you'll be able to listen in real time. So that's very cool. Wanted to let you know about that, and that is starting as Saturday's game. You'll need to be on the Ticats All Access app on your iPhone, Android. There's some further steps. Just go to ticats.ca for all the information on that. A big show, lots to get to coming up here today. Steve Milton from the Hamilton Spectator, had a chance to catch up with him while we were watching practice, so we'll get to that in just a little bit. We'll hear from Tunde Adeleke. He was named the team's most outstanding Canadian. We'll hear what he had to say about that. We'll hear from Desmond Lawrence as well, named the team's most outstanding rookie. And we'll hear from Coach O. So that's all coming up here on Ticats Today. But again, big announcement there with the ProWire. If you've ever wanted to listen to the game in real time here at the stadium, just go to ticats.ca for all the info on that. All right, let's hear from Coach Orlondo Steinauer as the Ticats held their final practice ahead of Saturday's game. They'll hold a walkthrough tomorrow, but their final real practice. And I asked Coach off the top here about momentum, because there's certainly not a lot of momentum coming out of Saturday's game, or Friday's game, excuse me. And going into the playoffs, this game can either mean a lot, having to win it to clinch home field advantage, or, if Montreal does lose on Friday, the game might mean nothing. So I wanted to know from Coach just how important of a factor is momentum, especially at this time of the season. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I do believe it. I do believe in momentum. I think that it has its piece. I guess there's, it could be considered a variable, but I don't. It's not the most important variable in my opinion. It's more about execution at this point. And the team that executes the most is going to have the best chance to win. So that's kind of more the focus, because really at this point we can't control the momentum because we didn't have a lot coming out of the last game. And in all honesty, it's just something you may notice. That we do want to stack good performances, good drives, good periods in practice. You want to stack those on each other, but it's not something where, I've sat down and talked to everybody and said, hey, we're gaining good momentum. Even though it may be happening, it just hasn't been a topic of ours, really. Don is looking good for this week. Okay. We're still waiting. He didn't take every rep today. If anybody was at practice, they would have noticed that. He is looking good, and I would expect him to play. If he's not ready to play, we will not force the issue. Yeah. And he will play in the first round of the playoff for sure.
Orlondo, when does your thought go from this game to the East semifinal? Do you do that on Saturday, or do you do that on Sunday?
Wow, that's an interesting. I don't know. That'd be my honest answer.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, knowing myself, I tell the players to, winning isn't easy. So I always want them to enjoy, in that case. And, I always want it's a 24-hour reflection either way, win, lose, or tie. That's what it is. So I don't really have a straight answer for you there. I would just say that whatever happens in the game, we are going to have to turn the page quickly because now we're in an elimination phase.
That is the head coach of the Hamilton Ticats, Orlondo Steinauer, as he spoke after practice today. All right, want to get to Tunde Adeleke. He was named the team's most outstanding Canadian. And the first time in his career, he's been recognized as most outstanding Canadian for his team. He has started 11 games at safety for the Ticats. He's got 43 defensive tackles, 1 quarterback sack, 1 interception, and 4 pass knockdowns. Of course, he was a 2019 CFL All-Star and East Division All-Star, but a great honor to be named Outstanding Canadian, and I asked him about it after practice today.
I don't know. It's just an honor to get recognized by the team, and with all the great Canadians we have on this team from the top down, there's a lot of guys making a lot of plays out there. It's nice to get that shout out, and it's people in the building that see all the hard work you put in. That's not just in games, in practice, in the weight room and stuff like that. So that's the biggest thing about it. Yeah. It's like this morning we were talking about in the DB room. It's me, Des Lawrence, and Nick Cross out here. So like big shout out to the DBs, and it's just all the work we put in, and we know that like we got to make as many plays as we can, and not just on defense, but also on special teams. So it's a big shout out to Nick Cross too. Coach Butler. He's excited. He was turned up this morning. So like yeah, it's just nice as for him his first time actually being the actual DB coach. It's like nice to have guys out here getting noticed for all the hard work they put in. The thing about Des was from training camp, we knew like he was going to be a guy when we needed him to step in, he was going to step in and make his plays. And he's the good thing about him is he doesn't really like come off like a rookie. Like when we're in meetings and things like that, he's also like throwing in his little tidbits about like what he's noticed in film and things like that. So having a guy like Des out there and like just from practice and knowing him, I'm not surprised on what success he's had in games and things like that. So it doesn't surprise anyone in the room, I don't think.
That is Tunde Adeleke, named the team's most outstanding Canadian. And you heard there he had a lot of nice things to say about the DB room, kind of cleaning up the awards there at Nick Cross, taking most outstanding special teams player. And Des Lawrence had a lot of nice things to say about Desmond Lawrence too, because Lawrence, of course, named the most outstanding rookie. He appeared in 10 games for the Ticats. He's started 5 at boundary corner this season. He's got 22 defensive tackles, 3 special team tackles, 1 quarterback sack, and 2 interceptions. And we asked Des, I asked Des after practice today, but what it meant to him to be recognized as the most outstanding rookie on this Tiger Cats team. Here's what he had to say.
It's an amazing honor for my first year being up here, just being able to be recognized by my peers and other people throughout the league. So it's a blessing to be in that position. Just looking forward to add more to the resume. Week 1 was tough just because, just being from the States, coming up here and learning about the ratio and everything about that. So, it's kind of humbling being put in that position, but I was excited to be able to go out on special teams and make plays. And then as the year went on, guys were going down and my role expanded. So I was just, every week I was preparing like a starter though. So once my opportunity came, I was just happy and ran with it. They've been huge in my development since being up here. I think especially Brooks with him being in the boundary with me, just seeing how he processes the game, what he looks for, and just picking up on that. And then I learned from Tunde just about the way he plays the game, how he moves around on the field and things like that. So I pick up from a lot of the guys, even some other rookies. So we got a great group on that back end and a lot of knowledge, like you said, between Tunde and Brooks and Rowley and a couple other guys. I think they're a physical bunch. Especially on offense, offensive linemen like to finish plays, some good receivers. Even though they don't have their number one running back and quarterback, I still think that they're a good team that could put up points. So we got to come out and do what we do best, play top down, be physical, and be great tacklers. I think if we do that, we give ourselves a great chance to win. Also taking the ball away, giving the offense the extra possessions and getting after the quarterback.
That is Desmond Lawrence as we caught up with him after practice today. And of course, he was named the most outstanding rookie, and the awards were voted on by a series of local reporters. And one of those local reporters is Steve Milton of the Hamilton Spectator. And I had a chance to catch up with Milty as practice was happening today. And we just started off our conversation. Lots to get into here, so be tuned in for the whole thing. But we started off, I wanted to know his thoughts on last Friday's game, because his line of questioning in the postgame was just that nobody expected what the Ticats happened to do in Toronto. Most of all him. Here's what he had to say.
No, I didn't. I didn't think a couple of things would happen that did happen in that game. And I think that sort of the manner in which Toronto did take over, and also that Hamilton didn't respond, and that the defense got beat up pretty good, and I wasn't expecting that at all.
Tim White had an interesting comment afterwards where he said, an extra game, really, I mean, with a team that hasn't really figured it out, like a bye week is helpful to get your bodies right. But if the team hasn't figured it out yet, an extra game could go a long way.
Well, I think that goes for an awful lot of teams. In Toronto, we could have made the same argument had they been the one forced to go the extra game. And let's remember that Tim White is a very positive human being, extremely positive human being. But you could make an argument for that, but that's not the argument you really want to make. What you want to make is to do what Saskatchewan's being able to do right now and pick and choose on now. They've got admittedly they've got an extra game, but they're using this one to rest some players, and Hamilton could have not done it to the extent by sitting 5 major players out, but they could have maybe played them just for to keep the wheels oiled, that kind of thing. And like everybody else, Hamilton's pretty beat up right now, and they could have used the rest. So yeah, that's a nice way of thinking, and that's the best way of thinking once it's occurred. But I don't think that's the priority that you really wanted.
To that point, had Hamilton had won that game, they would have known by now whether they were, Toronto played Tuesday, right? So had Hamilton had won, everything would have worked itself out ahead of Saturday. But again, It's a game that matters for the Ticats, not so much for Saskatchewan. Like you mentioned, they're resting 5 players. What are you expecting to see on Saturday? I mean, obviously this team wants to win. It'll depend on what happens, Friday night when the Red Blacks take on the Alouettes. But what are you expecting to see on Saturday?
Well, it really does depend on that, of course, on the Red. I mean, if there is an upset, then you got a different situation that Hamilton can be in the situation where they can rest certain players. But by then they'll have had to declare their lineups, and it won't be a matter of being able to sit them out. You'd better see something different than what we saw against Toronto on a lot of different levels. And if they don't, we have to say, really, they don't deserve a home game. And if you don't deserve a home game, history shows us in the East that really makes it well, it's been mathematically impossible. Not impossible, but it mathematically just doesn't happen in 50 some odd years. So you really got to see them be tougher, I think, on the lines, and I think they need maybe a different philosophy. First of all, Saskatchewan hasn't had a very consistent offense. Remind them of that, right? And be a little more. I thought there was not the aggression. I mean, they looked physically aggressive on defense, but they weren't getting to anybody, and they weren't. I didn't think they rushed. Sort of, it wasn't that they weren't rushing hard enough. It was the schematics of that, and I think that put their secondary that likes to play tough and their linebackers tight, I should say, not tough. They all play tough. A little bit in jeopardy.
All right, let's talk about the CFL awards, the team awards that were announced. Simone Lawrence, the unanimous MOP, not unanimous for defensive player, and I guess that's kind of it attributes to, I guess, the importance of Simone to this team and what he does, but also the incredible season. I'm assuming some of the votes on defensive player went to Carriel Brooks. But just your thoughts on Simone Lawrence and his season at even at this age, and I say that in the most respected way. That he is someone who's been able to take care of his body, and now it's been translated into a nomination for most outstanding player.
Some of the numbers don't necessarily show it, but I think in a lot of ways he's been getting stronger as a player as the season went on, and one would expect that of somebody at 30 who's had a year off, and really when you talk about CFL and realizing how much of a gap, how long the off season normally is, gets close to 2 years really off. And that's very difficult to, when you're, it's nice to rest the body. And you can see that I think that maybe is having an effect now, all of that rest. And I mean, he worked out hard. He said he was in the gym. Every time I phoned him, he was pretty well either going to or from the gym during the pandemic. So I think that may be showing a little bit for him right now. I think that's another thing we forget about Simone sometimes is he's a pretty durable player, and he's very and he plays with a fierceness out there that is catching. He plays with a joy in practice that is catching, and the fierceness that he plays with, and it's not phony. Neither of those two things are phony, and because players can sniff out phony in a minute. And his fierceness that he has on the field during game, and the joy that he plays with in practice to you can tell that he likes practice. It's catching as well.
Well, and you talk about catching, it's contagious, right? And I've been asking, Cam Kelly and Jovan Santos and Santos Knox and just like why they've had such instant chemistry. And it's you can start and end with 21. I mean, 21 encourages them to hang out afterwards away from football. He talks about the importance of being a real person and not just a football player on the field. And I've used the word maturity with Simone Lawrence in the last few years. And some people have said, well, maybe that's not fair, but I mean, it really is obvious just how much of a player he's grown as and a person he's grown as in the last,
the problem, it's often when we look at somebody who plays with childlike things, and sometimes with childlike emotions, the same emotions that you might have had in Pop Warner or amateur football. Quick to take offense, very very excited to be there, so excited that you might think that that's childish, and you can't see where the maturity part of that comes in. And that's why when you have a coach, and I think he's had some pretty good coaches here that recognize that, but I think Orlando is particularly suited to recognize that, because Orlando has a very holistic view of how the world operates. And I think he recognizes what Simone has and what he needs there, and he's the one that's often will talk about that dedication and maturity. And for a lot of people that don't know him and see him outside and only see the demonstrative side of him, they don't necessarily see what we see a lot, which is that sometimes when you're just talking to him and he goes into that quiet pensiveness and that maturity and the manner in which the responsibility. That's the word I'm looking for here, the responsibility.
And just to back it up, and I think sometimes when the criticism comes, he's matured, that isn't to imply he was ever immature, right? I mean,
just to imply that from the people that are saying it, I think, yeah.
I'm not saying he was ever immature. I've never got the sense that, he was, like you say, he plays with this childlike energy, and he'll be the first to admit it. He's having fun out there. But I mean, when I say maturity, it's just as a person, seeing him grow. Brandon Revin,
you see him as a person, and that's what, of course, a lot of people don't. People in other cities, or even people that never are around the team. So, so that's the thing, and I think that's the advantage of being around people, is that you see that. You can see the other things, and you can see how certain things on the field are actually the result of maturity.
Brandon Revenberg, unanimous for outstanding lineman. His durability is incredible. And, I was trying to get it out of him that he's played with somebody different to his left or his right almost every game. And when obviously they've had a lot of injuries, but he has been a constant on that offensive line, not just this season, but for the past 3 seasons. Obviously deserving of this award. But just take us through what you saw in voting, obviously for him, but the rationale.
Yeah, I did vote for him. Now, first of all, there weren't a lot of choices on the line because of that. How many different people that they have used, right? I mean, they just really haven't been able to, and you have had another guy that's always right there as one of the as top, a couple, 3 of them really, when you consider Van Zyl and Darius Rocco, who would always be right there, and you'd have to consider all 3 of those guys because tremendous Canadian core. Well, one was playing a new position and has been hurt an awful lot, and the other had been hurt, missed 6 or 7 games, I think, Chris, right? So those didn't necessarily come into play. I think Rev started the season, if you want to know the truth, a little slowly. And I think it was because of the factors that you were talking about. But he's hung in there, and that side's been that's the blind side. And they've been, fairly well protected when you look at, the number of interceptions, which usually come from hurries. How few that the team has thrown, no matter who's at quarterback there, and a lot of that's been because of protection, particularly in the Watford games. But yeah, I think Rev's really, and I think he's done a pretty good job there. I mean, Van Zyl is the veteran, but Rev he understood that, especially with Filer gone, that there was some stepping up to be done here in another kind of way that he was moving towards that anyways. You could see it in the locker room, at least the times that we were allowed in there. You could see it, and he's much more outgoing than he was, and that I mean, there just really was no other choice there. He's one of those guys. He's one of those ones that Ticats have to keep around for a long, long time.
And again, I don't think that is to take away from the honor to say, like, hey, I mean, he's the only one who played all 13 games. But no. He is super deserving of the award. And I'm not implying that's what I'm taking from that answer at all. But just for people listening.
He's been really growing as the season's gone on, too, under very difficult circumstances. I mean, when we go that many running backs, that many quarterbacks, that many centers, 3 of each, right? Maybe 4 on the running backs. That many left tackles, that's a lot of stuff to deal with.
Milty, we're watching practice right now. What are you looking at? Last practice before tomorrow's walkthrough. What are you watching right now as we're sitting here chatting?
Well, you sort of wonder what's going to happen kicking. For one, I guess you're looking for Mazzola, but I thought going into the last game when we talked at the top of the show about what surprised me. And I think one of the things that did surprise me was Jeremiah Mazzoli missing those early shots. Could have changed. I mean, it was actually, the game plan was good. Stretch Toronto, go at them early, and they were there. I mean, there were 3 deep passes there and that didn't get hit, and another semi-deep that was dropped, right? I'm not saying that changed the game, but what it didn't do was change the game the way that it could have happened had they had even been even close on a couple of those. So that one I'm watching. I wanted to say I'm watching Jeremiah, but he had a hell of a week in practice last week too. So it doesn't always translate to how the game works out. How it works out. I just want to make sure everybody. I'm just watching to see everybody healthy. What's going to happen at running back, all of that kind of thing.
I mean, Don Jackson, coach, said it yesterday. It looks like he's trending in the right direction. And as we look up here, he's out there. How much can you look at that game against Toronto and say, oh, well, if Don Jackson was there, it might have been a little different?
Don't know how much different it would have been because there was a sag there I hadn't expected, but it made a difference of some kind. It's hard to quantify what would have happened because you don't know. I mean, things get based on 5 or 6 plays either way. And, I mean, 2 or 3 of those for Hamilton were in the first few minutes of the game, with passes that weren't hit. and then some came later when Toronto really started to roll. But I think he would have made a real difference. I really think he would have made a difference. I think he made a difference in the games that he was in there. I think he made a difference for the line because now that just one split second hesitation. Okay, where's five? Right? Yeah. And oh, geez, I just got blocked. Right. So
yeah. Well, it is funny, like, because you don't think about it like as a fan. I mean, there's a big difference between blocking for a run and blocking for protection, right? I mean,
one's aggressive, one's passive.
And that's I mean, like, and again, that's the one thing, like, I'll plead ignorance as a fan, even a few years ago, now that I'm here every day and watching it. Like, there is such a significant difference between blocking for a pass and blocking for a run, that the offensive line, it does make a bit of a difference on what they do.
Well, and Louie, it goes deeper than that too. I mean, it's that concept, but I mean, techniques are different. One you're firing out, one one's proactive, one's reactive, but it makes the reactive one a little bit better if they're believing. It isn't just that you run or if you have success at the run, but that the other team believes that you will. And that's a huge, huge thing. You don't even have to run if you got them believing you will, right?
Yeah.
Sort of.
Well, it's so funny because, like, listening to Coach Sal, not funny, but like Coach Sal will always, like, the amount of times Coach Sal has told me, I hope they run the ball more. I hope they run the ball more. And as an offensive line coach, like, as a former offensive line coach, like, you just kind of get more of an appreciation for when he says that, because he knows.
That's why I thought Tommy's plan at the start of the game was pretty good, because Toronto was expecting that big time. Now all of a sudden you're one-on-one in the back, and it's pretty hard to cover those guys back there. And they were open. And it just didn't come down. That part, normally I say, execution. I hear that word way too much. The first quarter of that game, first quarter and a half for Hamilton, on offense, it was about execution because the stuff was there.
All right, Milty, I'll let you get back to watching practice. Thanks for doing this.
All right. Okay, Louie.
My thanks to Steve Milton for giving me some time today. Of course, he's a very busy guy with everything he does at the Hamilton Spectator, so always nice to catch up with him. And my thanks to you for tuning in as well, because that'll do it for us here on Ticats today. Hey, while you're here on the Ticats Audio Network, go check out some of the other great shows we had coming out today. We got a brand new episode of Task and Twos. CFL This Week just dropped today, so go check it out. Bubba's joined by Christina Costable, Jim Mullen, and Dan Ralph. So great new show there. And any of the other great shows, make sure to subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network so you never miss any of them. That'll do it for us here today on Ticats Day. As mentioned, thanks for joining us. Be sure to join us tomorrow, same time, same place, for the Ticats Audio Network. I'm Louie B. Hoping you have a great day.
Ticats Today with Louie B. Subscribe, like, and get your Ticats fix every weekday.